Hey everyone, I've been talking about the Joker Last Laugh, a crossover series from back in the day featuring the Joker turning a prison full of supervillains into Jokerized versions of themselves. We'll go into a series of tie-ins featuring these now Jokerized villains, and at the end of this video I'll get into what happens next. Before that begins, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos on comics, new and old, as well as the rest of this series as I continue to make these videos. With the prisoners now free, one villain, an evil clone of Superboy named Match, sought to take revenge against Superboy and his friends on the Young Justice team for imprisoning the clone to begin with. Fleeing to the headquarters of the young superhero group, Match learned that they were essentially falling apart. Both superheroes Robin and Impulse quit Young Justice in front of the villain's very eyes, while Superboy was still away following some traumatic events that badly affected the entire group. Match, now having many of the traits of the Joker, decides to impersonate Superboy, get close to the team, and then kill them all. Witnessing him attempt this, the team assumes that Match is the real Superboy, just wearing Joker-style makeup in some ill-advised attempt to cheer the remaining members of Young Justice up. Brushing off his erratic behavior, they largely ignore the young clone, especially since he acts as little more than a minor nuisance to the team. Eventually, however, Wonder Girl, also known as Cassie Sandsmark, gets fed up with his goofy behavior. Still thinking Match is Superboy, Cassie confesses that she loves the young man, causing Match to develop feelings for her in turn. Weeping, the clone flies off, feeling he could never live up to the real Superboy and be worthy of a person like Cassie, just as the real Superboy appears in time for a very confusing conversation with the young woman. Far off from this place, in Alaska, Slig emerges, now fully infected by the Joker gas. While in prison, he learned of a time when the Joker altered fish to have the clown's own disturbing face, and is inspired by the story and the villain's antics at the prison. He decides that in honor of the Joker, he will use his powers of transmutation to alter the world in a similar fashion. It does not take long for news to spread of sea life transforming in odd ways, and oceanside towns being devastated by tidal waves suddenly appearing out of nowhere. This eventually attracts the attention of new god and former member of the Justice League known as Orion. He battles Slig in the seas of Earth, and after a prolonged conflict, Orion manages to forcibly put an end to Slig's attack on the planet, sending the villain back to Darkseid's home world of Apocalypse. Although this put an end and undid most of Slig's apocalyptic effects on the planet, and most animals, along with Slig, were all returned to normal, some were left forever wearing a visage of the Joker's face. Slig's behavior was not viewed in a positive light by Darkseid either, as Orion is the Dark Leader's biological son. But Darkseid chose to let the villain off lightly and allowed Slig to recover on Apocalypse in relative peace. A woman visiting the slab named Lilley was also infected by the Joker toxin, and was personally escorted out of the prison by the villain during the breakout. On the outside, she became preoccupied with the notion of evil, speaking of it with a man named Brian on the matter. Disturbed by this conversation, Brian later calls Azreal, warning him about Lilley, who also is taken to dressing as the religious vigilante himself. Jean-Paul Valley found the woman at a retirement home, having donated a great deal of money to them, while also paradoxically hiring a gang to barricade the elderly residents within the home, all while calling herself the new Azreal. After making quick work of a bodyguard hired by Lilley, Azreal could only watch as another of her goons lit the entire residence on fire. So Azreal bursts into the home, grabs a fire extinguisher, and begins to put out the flame. He is attacked by Lilley's gang in spite of her orders to the contrary, so she is forced to intervene and help Jean-Paul Valley defeat them and put out the fire. At this, and using his history with Lilley, Azreal knows what to say. He points out that a truly evil person wouldn't have helped him at all, and at his words, the toxin wears off, and the woman returns to normal. In Washington, D.C., the Joker raids a secure facility called Project Rebirth, deep below the Pentagon. He unleashes a captive being held here, and begins to laugh. Above ground, Superman restores a flag while the President of the United States, Lex Luthor, gives a speech, addressing a restoration effort going on throughout the city following a war against a cosmic being called Imperiex. The ceremony is interrupted when Doomsday erupts from the ground. Superman quickly flies in and pulls Doomsday away from the civilians. Kal-El is shocked to see his foe, as the villain is lined in a lead suit that prevented his discovery from happening earlier, and Doomsday was thought to have died during the war with Imperiex. In response to this chaos, Luthor activates a large cube that imprisons both Superman and Doomsday, and then engages an energy field that has properties similar to kryptonite, weakening both of his new captors. Nevertheless, though he possesses Kryptonian DNA, Doomsday is still strong enough to pummel Superman and break free of Luthor's makeshift prison. Weakened, Superman calls for help, while Doomsday turns his attention to Luthor. Lex, panicking, reveals that he knows the Martian Manhunter is disguising himself as one of his assistants, and at his urging, the alien steps in to defend them both. John Jones, thanks to his Martian physiology and superpowers, is able to put up quite a fight against Doomsday, impressing his foe, but the unstoppable alien is able to resist the Martian Manhunter's telepathy and super strength. And pretty soon the fight begins to tip in Doomsday's favor. Elsewhere, Lois Lane finds Superman, but he is not breathing. One of the White House guards, Jefferson Pierce, asks her to step away from the man, and uses his Black Lightning powers to revive the Man of Steel. Using his telepathy, John warns the now awake Kal that Doomsday is getting smarter, and the villain understands it was Luthor that got him killed in the war against Imperiex, hence his focus on the President. Superman finds Doomsday and squares off with the villain, lecturing him about how increased knowledge and cognition has actually made Doomsday weaker. Being this intelligent means that Doomsday is now smart enough to feel pain and all the feelings of doubt and fear that come with it. Superman correctly predicts that Doomsday is unable to compensate for this yet in a fight. At these words, one of the villain's claws shatters on Kal-El's body, and the hero promises Doomsday that like this, he will never be able to win. Vowing to never again be defeated by this villain, Superman knocks out his opponent with a tremendous blow. As Lex emerges from the rubble, Kal-El warns him not to let Doomsday out ever again, unaware of the Joker's role in any of this. After the exposure to the kryptonite-like energy, Superman remains unaware of what's going on at the slab or the larger events of the world at the time. Kal states that he sees through Luthor and knows even though Luthor is pretending to be a good public servant, Kal states he doesn't believe Lex is truly seeking redemption. Later, Lex meets with Darkseid, revealing that he partnered with the Joker to free Doomsday and prove that the villain was of use to the Lord of Apocalypse. He turns over Doomsday as part of a deal the two made so that Darkseid would aid the Earth against Imperiex. Meanwhile, Superman goes to Smallville at the request of his mother. He is shocked to find Jonathan Kent, his adoptive father once thought dead, and having suffered amnesia for some time, smiling, ready to greet Kal with a big hug. The two share a moment, watching the sunset while affirming their love for one another as father and son. In Gotham's Burnley, a number of people begin mysteriously dying, including the owner of an extermination company. Already stretched thin as Jokerized villains begin rampaging across the city, Batman dispatches one of his allies to investigate. Spoiler, also known as Stephanie Brown. Though instructed to keep her distance from any Jokerized metahumans, the ever-headstrong Spoiler discovers a suspicious figure leaving the scene of an explosion and confronts the man. This proves a dangerous mistake when the villain reveals he is surrounded by a swarm of cockroaches and attacks the young vigilante. Batman arrives just in time to save her, knocking the man down. This disturbing individual attacks the two vigilantes with a gruesome roar, but Batman is able to make him collapse with a heavy dose of insecticide. The Dark Knight explains that the cockroaches living in the slab prison must have also been infected by the Joker toxin, and they took over this man's body, killing him and beginning to use his body to slaughter people in Burnley while attempting to further breed their swarm using other humans. As the two discuss this disgusting revelation, Spoiler realizes that Batman could hear everything she was saying and doing due to a faulty microphone the entire night, explaining why he was on the scene so quickly. She apologizes to him as she talks to herself quite a bit, but Bruce dismisses her concerns. On a night like tonight, he actually enjoyed the company, and requests that she leave the microphone on. Nearby, neither Batman nor Spoiler notice a human head being carried away by a small surviving group of roaches. Next time, the Joker continues his big plans while the Justice League itself gets involved. We'll cover all that here on Comic Island, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.